Hi, my name is Steve Mokaya and I welcome you to this podcast. I'm a freelance student journalist based in Kenya, and for this episode we look at exactly what should be done to redeem the otherwise drying wetlands in Kenya in general and Manguo wetland in particular. Now, Manguo wetland is of special interest because it sits next to one of Kenya's busiest highways in Limuru town along Nakuru-Nairobi highway. It was also the subject of a two-part feature series that was produced in July by yours truly with the guidance of South Africa-based Roving Reporters News Agency and in collaboration with Internews Earth Journalism Network. 2 months after the publication of the story, Kenya's Water Resources Authority, alongside other government agencies, have started engaging the locals at Manguo to come up with ways of protecting the resource from further degradation. Already 2 meetings have been held, and by the time of going to press, another one was slated to happen within a week. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to get a statement from the Water Resources Authority about the plans of conservation that are underway. Nonetheless, I managed to get an exclusive interview with Professor John Mironga, who lectures at Egerton University in Kenya. Professor Mironga has specialized in climate change and wetland ecology. He's also part of the team of researchers who have been championing for the preservation of small wetlands in Western Kenya for the past 15 years. I started the interview by asking him what he thinks is the biggest problem that is facing wetlands in Kenya.
There's this notion that has been there for many years, that wetlands are wastelands. People don't really see the value of it. But I'm happy that today people, with the effects of climate change, now people have now started understanding these pockets of our ecosystem or environment, how useful they are to us. And this is the case with the Manguo.
Professor adds that the legislation of environmental laws in this country is partly to blame for the current mess of the wetlands.
Our history in terms of environmental management in Kenya, the first law or policy came in 1999. So what does that tell you? There before we were not very keen, we didn't even know. We were managing our environment through sectoral policies. It is now that we are doing a lot of environmental audits after 1999 that things now are changing. But you see, chemicals are long lasting. The biodiversity rate has been affected. Chemicals bioaccumulate. They move from one generation to another one. This is what we call bioaccumulation. So it's something that you cannot reverse.
That notwithstanding, he believes that all is not utterly lost and that proper education on the farmers and residents around the wetland is a must if anything has to improve.
People are living there to sustainably manage their activities. The farmers, we need to educate them to shift from use of chemical fertilizers, pesticides, to other better forms of agriculture. So the moment we cap that kind of flow of pollution, now we can try to remedy the situation. And I think that's the best we can do.
Limuru Water and Sewerage Company was accused in the print feature series of over-extracting waters from the wetland. But then again, water is a basic necessity in the lives of human beings. How do we balance between protecting the wetland and water provision?
The population will always go up, the water demand will always be there, and if the demand increases, they will always sink another borehole.
But again, you see, sir, they said that they don't draw water from the surface really, but they drill as deep as 200 meters deep.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
But you understand where the water is coming. It's in infiltrate. So once the water infiltrates, then you are obstructing it. Then again you are affecting the water levels, definitely. That's not a different source. It's the same source. Why are they not obstructing from elsewhere then, if that's the case? Why are they sinking the boreholes around that particular place? It's something which is obvious, you understand? Yeah? You can do it elsewhere, but I think that's the best reservoir. They are assured of infiltration. The water levels don't fluctuate.
So what's infiltration?
It's a situation whereby the wetlands takes up the water during the rainy season, and slowly by slowly the water infiltrates to the underground reservoirs for the water company now to take advantage.
Is there really any hope of redemption for Manguo, or just it's on its path to death completely?
When I look at the case of Manguo, it's a bit complicated. People have title deeds claiming a good chunk of the wetland. Yes, we can, because we have some efforts. I saw last year people demonstrating when they were affected by floods. They realize what this wetland has been doing to them. So we need to take advantage of that knowledge of the benefits of that particular wetland.
There have been efforts before by the Manguo Landowners Association to protect the wetland. The 70-member body fenced off the wetland and established a bird watching tower. However, their efforts didn't last long. The wetland slipped back to the mud of degradation. What could have gone wrong?
They didn't invite researchers. They didn't invite other stakeholders into the management of the wetland. In other words, therefore, what we need now in Manguo is concerted effort. Manguo, we need to know how far the problem is, the levels of pollution, before we need to address them. We want to understand how it used to be before we restore, what kind of plants used to be there, what can we do to reverse that process. We need to identify sources of pollution. We need people to engage the community, educate them. So it's something that needs concerted efforts. We need researchers to tell us these are the initial boundaries of Manguo as a wetland, the damage that has been caused. This is what we can do. This is where we need to start from. We need policymakers also.
Who do you think should play the biggest role?
The county government. This is within the defined region. It should be the fulcrum, and then we come in.
During the writing of the feature series on Manguo, some of the locals blamed Bahati Abattoir, which is the main slaughterhouse in Lemuru, of polluting the wetland. The owner of the slaughterhouse objected the claims. Do you think that such developments have a role in polluting the wetland?
You see, the problem is that there's no developer who would accept that my system is not running. So that's why we need to always audit those systems. Because those 3 lagoons are not enough. What comes out of that should also be passing through an artificial wetland, where the water will sit for some time before it is released. These are the people we need to target, take them to places where waste management is done nicely, until the water that comes out is used for irrigation somewhere, you understand? So that at the end of the day, the water is not really, it's bio water. It's water that can be put into other uses.
What's the link between wetlands and climate change?
Wetlands do a lot of what we call carbon sequestration. They sequester, they store a lot of carbon. As you know, carbon is one of the enemies, the worst. So carbon is stored in the system. So the process is known as carbon sequestration process. Worldwide, they sequester up to a third of this carbon that we are talking about. So you can imagine, if Manguo is destroyed, then you are releasing the same gas that is affecting us, leading to climate change. The other one, they really help in terms of flooding. A lot of rains come, those reeds and whatever slow down the process. You see, instead of experiencing floods, they slow the flooding process. The water is stored there for some time. There is a lot of resident time. It percolates to underground water, which again we'll use during the drought season. So they really help us in terms of adaptation and mitigation, in terms of climate change. This water, we cannot use it that particular season. All of it stores it until we are experiencing variability, not only on surface water, but also underground water.
Now, Prof, briefly tell us about your role in the research of conservation of the wetlands in Western Kenya and how it can be applied in restoring Manguo wetland, and not just Manguo wetland, but other wetlands in the country.
My main objective was to see how, for example, agriculture is affecting wetlands. How has it been affecting wetlands over the years? Now that these are residents, these are their farms, how best can we train our farmers, do sustainable land management towards protecting any remnant of our wetland that we have? We are sensitizing and empowering them and giving them the skills on how best to protect these wetlands, because they have now seen from a small area, Steve, 10 feet by 10 feet, a bond, a farm has like 500 mudfish, for example, selling even if it's 200, you're making 100,000. Compare this with spinach, for example, or sukuma wiki, that small piece. It can't even reach 1,000 bob. The only problem that I've witnessed is the growing of eucalyptus. I don't know what's happening. but 60 to 70% now have agreed not to. Yeah. And if you go back home, to Western Kenya, you will see people now cutting the eucalyptus from those regions. Yeah. Because 2-3 years ago, there was a dry spell and there was no water. They really suffered. And now they have agreed that they would protect those farms forever.
Okay, you talked about empowering them. How do you empower them?
Personally and other members in the research team, we have come up with a curriculum, how best they can manage wetlands. First, we train them on the benefit, their role as residents, what they can do at the household level, not to affect that particular wetland. Because at the end of the day, what they are doing, if the beech trees are near the waters, they will go back again to affect them. So these are some of the things that we are doing. And now we are coming up with eco-toilets, and we are partnering with many international NGOs, local NGOs to shift from beech trees because of the effects that they have on water systems, where again people rely on. So if we manage, for example, with the eco-toilets, then you see we are winning.
Please tell me more about eco-toilets. I'm hearing that for the first time. Vis-a-vis the beech trees.
Yeah. So the eco-toilets is where you separate the human waste from urine, so they don't mix. So the other one can be transformed into fertilizer later, organic fertilizer. And this has no chance of going into the water system. Now we are now targeting schools, train the teachers, to train the kids on the best, how best they can manage the environment, more so the wetlands. We are partnering with companies, how best they can train the farmers on how to use these chemicals.
Oh, so what else could you add about all these things that we've talked about?
This is the only thing that we have that we can pass to our future generation. And Steve, it's unfortunate that in Kenya, in some of these regions we are talking about, where wetlands are in plenty. Now the water is polluted. 1 liter of water is going for 100 bob. 1 liter of petrol, after all that processing, importation from somewhere Middle East all the way, it's almost costing the same. What does that tell you?
What does that tell you? And that question from Professor brings this episode to the end. We hope that all the concerned stakeholders will do their role, not just to protect Manguo wetland only, but other wetlands and natural resources elsewhere as well. Many thanks to Professor John Mironga of Egerton University in Kenya and you, dear listener. Special thanks to Roving Reporters News Agency for facilitating the production of this podcast. My name is Steve Mokaya, and until next time, bye.